Hello and welcome to Grief Seeds, a podcast where you'll find insights, reframings, metaphors, and visualizations, all known as grief seeds, to help you cultivate growth and healing in your life after loss. My name is Shelby Forsythia. I'm an intuitive grief guide and author, and on this show, I'll share insights from my interactions with clients, wise words from fellow grievers, and personal stories from my own life, with the hope that they transform your grief as they have transformed mine. Because even when it doesn't feel like it, we are planting the seeds of growth in the midst of great pain and heartache. Your grief is welcome here. Hi there, grief growers, and welcome to another episode of Grief Seeds. Thank you so much for being here with me today. The tool I want to offer you today is a reframing, or perhaps just something to do when flashbacks visit you. I remember in the aftermath of my mom's death, so often I was plagued by or haunted by replaying over and over and over and over again the last week of her life. There were so many vivid pictures of her dying and then her dead that lived and kind of screeched forward without warning in my brain. And part of this is a result of trauma. I have a dear friend named Mona Luna who classified trauma during an interview we were in as anything that is too much, too fast. And this is a different breakaway from diagnosable trauma like PTSD or something of that nature. But to refer to your loss as traumatic sometimes can help give you a framing that you need in order to describe something that's happening to you. And sometimes intrusive thoughts, sometimes being visited by memories when you weren't actively thinking about them, getting flashbacks, replaying the past, these things are a result of having lived through, having survived something very traumatic, like the death of a loved one. And I've worked with so many clients before who have such a hard time with flashbacks. They feel as if they are victims of their brains, that they can't escape the ways in which they feel trapped or haunted by these memories. And this is something that I really resonated with as well, because I knew for sure, and you probably know for sure as well, we have other memories living up there. We remember happy things. We remember positive times in our lives. We know that we have lived other life besides the traumatic flashbacks that we keep getting delivered over and over and over again. But it's almost like these flashbacks and memories are junk mail that you can't unsubscribe to. They keep filling up the mailbox, and it's all you can do to try and receive any of the rest of the letters that are trying to make their way through to you. So I was working with a client once who had suffered the loss of her husband unexpectedly, and as she was sitting with and witnessing her grief, she said, "The thing I struggle with the most is dealing with flashbacks of his final day, because his death was unexpected. It happened in the blink of an eye." She said, getting the phone call, rushing to the scene, being there as he took his last breath. She's like, "This is something I sit with and I replay over and over and over again, not of my own free will, not of my own choice, of my own volition, but something that happens over and over and over again." And grief growers, if this is something that's true for you, I encourage you to seek the help of a grief coach or a trauma therapist, and you might try on this tool as an additional help to you in these times. Honor or acknowledge the traumatic memory that's being brought forth. So, for instance, when I am visited by the picture of my mom in her hospital bed, in her bedroom, not moving, the first time I saw her after she died, it's like my brain freezes. I go into a different place. I'm not thinking cognitively or consciously. I set into a place of panic or deep grief or hardcore sorrow, however you'd like to describe it here. And in these moments, I'll take a deep breath and out and tell my brain, thank you for showing this memory to me. I remember, just like you, that this was important, that this happened, that her death matters, that I will never forget this image. Thank you for showing it to me and reminding me of how important this moment was to my life. That's step 1. Step 2 is to ask your brain lovingly, gently, in a few moments, doesn't have to be right now, to show you something different. Thank you for showing me this memory of my mom. Thank you for reminding me of how important it is. Perhaps with another deep breath. And out. I would love if you showed me the time we made Christmas cookies together in the kitchen. Or I would love if you showed me when she would sing along as I played the piano with her. I would love if you showed me a boring visual, just of us on a drive somewhere, don't even have to know the destination. I would love if you showed me something neutral, something happy, something positive, something different. Something that takes me out of this panic response, this grief spiral, this anxiety trap, and reminds me too that we lived other life together. I have other memories to draw on. And grief growers, this is not an act of replacement. This is not, don't think of hard times, only think of happy times. This is, you are going to think of hard times. You are going to have flashbacks. And flashbacks do not have to be the period on the end of your mental sentence. Flashback, comma, and deep breath. Show me something positive. Some of you know this, some of you don't, but I experienced a near-death event at the beginning of this year, 2021. What year are we in now? 2021. March of 2021. My body was extremely depleted, and I didn't know it. And I experienced a seizure in my home, and I was alone when it happened. And I was not conscious by the time friends found me and paramedics arrived. And I know for sure that things would have been different if my friends had not appeared on the scene. And ever since that event, ever since that brain-altering event, I have suffered with nightmares. These vivid, horrifying pictures of my friends and family dying in a plane crash, or a ship going down and me not being able to save anyone. Something happening where I am a sole survivor and I'm powerless to stop the pain that is inevitably on its way. And I've done a lot of work with therapists, with other coaches, with other intuitives to suss out the trauma behind this event of almost dying for me in this year, but also the trauma being revisited by these stories, by these memories. They're not flashbacks, but they are nightmares. They are horrifying and terrifying. And I wake up sometimes so absolutely fear-stricken by what I have just been made to see. And my aunt, who's an intuitive person, gave me this wonderful tool that might also help you honor your flashbacks in your grief. She and I invented this metaphor of taking an elevator to a different floor. Could be a higher floor, could be a lower floor. High and low are not rankings of emotions here. They're just different spaces in the metaphorical building of your mind. So when you realize you are having a flashback, when you are waking up from a nightmare, that was horrifying, deep breath. And out. How can I take the elevator to a different floor? Do I need to take it down and feel more grounded into the earth? Can I pull up a memory of us in a garden together, or doing something with plants or animals or nature? Do I feel like I am in the deepest pits of hell and need to pull myself to something higher, something happier? Take the elevator to the roof deck and envision something like traveling in a plane together, or walking around a bookstore together, or winning an award and having them be so proud of you, walking down the aisle on your wedding day and having them companion you. A moment of joy or of true bliss that the two of you shared. How can that be something that is another place to go as you are seeing yourself in these flashbacks? So whether you take a deep breath, honor the flashback, and ask your brain to shift to something else, or you use this metaphor, this visualization of taking the elevator to another floor, I hope that this tool helps you visualize and shift your flashbacks, honoring them as things that are going to show up in your grief, and also knowing that you, as the griever, as the head in which all of these flashbacks are happening, you have so many other places you can also go after the flashbacks have taken place. And you can do this 1 time a day, you can do this 5 times a day, you can do this 50 times a day. And as you do, you are rewiring your neural circuitry to know that after a flashback, we always go to a place of peace. After a flashback, we always go to a place of joy. After a flashback, we always land in a place of rest. And you can offer that gift to yourself. I invite you to take a deep breath in with me here. And out. May you, dear grief grower, as you are haunted by flashbacks, as you have been given, through no choice of your own, this heap of horrible memories that are true for you and that replay in your mind, I invite you to breathe into them, reminding yourself that you have the power, the ability, the brain capacity, the energy to shift these flashbacks to something else, to take the elevator to a different floor, to change the channel on the television. Know that this is not a replacing. We do not seek to replace or retell or erase any part of the story of your loss and the trauma that comes with it. And also, we do seek to expand your picture of your life with your loved one, of your life as a whole, of your life outside of the experience of loss. You have permission through this exercise to remind yourself that yes, you have lived through some horrors, and also you have experienced great seasons of happiness, of joy, of comfort, of home, of peace, and of rest. And those memories can be accessible to you too. Deep breath in here and out. Thank you so much for joining me today on Grief Seeds. So that's all for this episode of Grief Seeds. Thank you so much for listening today. You can find additional grief support at shelbyforsythia.com or by following me on social media at shelbyforsythia on Facebook and Instagram. If this podcast helped you in your life after loss, please leave a review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And be sure to share Grief Seeds with a friend, because you never know what someone you love is going through. A huge thank you to my Patreon supporters for financially keeping this podcast on the air. If you'd like to support Grief Seeds on Patreon through a yearly or monthly pledge, you can do so at patreon.com/ShelbyForsythia. My Patreon supporters get access to behind-the-scenes content, including a once-a-month grief support call with me and 5 90-minute workshops with topics decided by grievers themselves. Again, that website is patreon.com/ShelbyForsythia. Music for Grief Seeds is performed by Addie Goldstein. As always, my dear grief growers, it was beautiful sharing this space and time with you today. I see you. I am so proud of you and the work that you're doing in the world. And I love you. Because even through grief, we are growing.